So hi everyone, today in this video we're going to discuss some of the mental models that can be helpful for the process of solving some of the most common problems that we tend to face in our day-to-day lives. And then so it allows you to focus in trying to show to you that is much easier than it can seem, becoming a better problem solver. And I believe that as better you are in being a problem solver, better as well you're gonna get to succeed in your life. So as much better you are in problem solving, better you're going to be as well in your life. And then so what's going to be the problem today is what I can call like a wave of appearance of mental disorders that we're seeing happening today in our century. And so we'll start looking for mental models that can be helpful to understand it and to create solutions for the appearance of that disorders. And then so we're gonna talk about a bit of the mental renaissance, and it's already backed by WHO data that has seen that 300% depression rise since 1990, despite 4 times antidepressant usage in comparison that what was used in the past. So seems to be like that neighborhood is something that can be solved and by pharma, and then so probably we're looking for in the perspective of behavioral, so day-to-day life, more kind of make your brain learn not via getting exposed to pharma could be something more efficient. But then so instead of just getting deep on that, we need to start looking for the mental models that I think are good to get applied in the problem. So first, epidemic driver. Detach ejects dopamine. 3 hours and 50 minutes daily doom scrolling. And what's the problem with scrolling is that when you scroll, you get your brain to face a lot of stimulation, and certain times, and the majority of the times, is stimulation that is what it's easy to get, and it's good because obviously depending of your likes, but normally the algorithms, they're already kind of built in a way that it's refined by other users. And then so normally we, by being from some species, we tend to have certain likes that are so in common, they're shared by the majority. And then so the algorithm even previous so to your usage is already sharp, is already trained a bit, and then so it's not like something that is not already good to be used at first time, and then so it becomes easier to get addicted because since the first use you already have a good experience. But then so what is the problem is that normally, and we're seeing a lot of problems comes with our inability to deal with the problems that we face in our day-to-day lives. Then starts to appear a lot of high levels of stress, and will so be pretended because people feel more stressed by the challenge that they face. And normally it comes as well with people getting a bad education and feeling that they can get their things that generates pleasure for them at such a short pain. They have to pass for to less to get the pleasure, and it's something that is learned by obviously the social medias in terms of how easy it is to get whatever is the behaviors. You can see a lot of naked persons if you're, and obviously the sexual the sexual side, the sexual aspect is something that tends to trigger a lot of dopamine, and it's so much easier in comparison with getting to the present and getting to the real world, having to engage, having to create a relationship that so could lead in the future for a lovely, and then so in the potential the creation of families. And then so people, by being much easier, by just scrolling, by just searching what they want to see in comparison with what's needed in real life, when then so they get exposed to the real life problem, they will not have the tools because they were not educated to expose their reality and train over time. So then in a potential future, after this training, after this exposure to reality, then so they're more a higher toolkit in terms of quality, so to deal with that. And then so obviously it seems to be that the phones have this type of downside. And then so a neuro intervention, we have the dopamine taxation apps pay users for screen off time. And we have example the Singapore's focus dividend. So basically, what's the way of hacked? It's one of the most basic ones in psychology that is stimulation, attaching pleasures with doing the task that you want to do. In that case, is so people not entering certain type of apps that you will not like them to enter. And friction architecture, another thing, mandatory 20-second delays before infinite scroll. Now here, friction, increasing the opportunity cost of doing a task that you don't want to be made is something smart, is something that's backed by psychology, and then so makes you don't feel less motivated to do something because it's harder to get the revenue that you're seeking. So now basically playing with something that so don't regulate the our dopamine. That's something that you have to do because dopamine is obviously attached with pleasure, and pleasure is adapt so with our resilience to deal with pain. And then so in reality, a lot of the targets that we have in our life, so getting fit or gaining money, having a sustainable life, it depends on you in your ability to be resilient to the pain. And then so if you get educated, if you get exposure to things that doesn't regulate this, does the completely opposite. So it's something that you will not also like to happen. Second, urban neuroarchitecture, epidemic driver. Concrete jungles starve primal needs, and also a biophilic remodel. Forest prescriptions, doctors ordered 120 minutes week. Nature South Korea is covered by insurance and cortisol buffering infrastructure. South deepening roads, anxiety reducing blue-green light in transit. Oslo in Norway reduced antidepressant scripts 18% via green corridors. 3. Toxic achievement detox. What's the epidemic driver? Hostile culture glorifies burnout, and so obviously burnout attached with high levels of stress because we are accepting the trade-off of being someone that's constantly stressed in trying to go to always so performing. So sometimes we are overperforming what we should do in if we're looking for a sustainable and healthy result. Because now here a best way to see the reality, because we praise and we value too much, we overrate the short-term pleasure that is so the feeling of being overworking during a short term, but certain times you don't get. That's better to work less in a short time because we're gonna be able to be more sustainable in long term, because in long term we will be able to sustain that habits, while potentially now by me being overworked, I reach a result that I become so much saturated that in the future I will know nothing of that. I'm becoming done with that. And then so at the end of the day, the summit will be that the more sustainable way, not overworking in short term, seems to be better in the results in long term. And then so cultural reset, productivity disproof units, artificial intelligence that expose busy work. Your 62 weekly emails create zero heroes value, and we see this a lot. And anti-green legislation, so a right to disconnect, fines for after-hours contact, paid proposed sabbaticals every 7 years. Belgium's productivity neutral 4-day week cut burnout ER visits 31%. Now, trauma-informed economics. What's the epidemic driver? Poverty creates chronic cortisol floods. So what's the healing scaffolds? Therapy vouchers, 5K years in mental health care debit cards funded by big tech, data taxes, and narrow income floor, universal basic income calibrated to suppress stress biomarkers. So in Canada's Manitoba's income experiment reduced mental hospitalizations 30.5%. Neurodiverse societies, epidemic driver, forced conformity creates autistic burnout, ADHD, shame. And then so inclusion engineering, sensory sovereignty zones, low stimulus workspace, neuro-inclusion credits for employers. And cognitive liberty laws, right to range customization, neurotropics, and sensory tools. Ireland's autism accommodations boosts workforce participation 83%. Meaning infrastructure, epidemic driver, loneliness equals to smoking 15 6-day cigarettes. So loneliness is being something that makes our life tends to create bad type of effects for our life. And loneliness is different than obviously loneliness is when you reach a result that you pass so much time alone that you feel that you want to get connection but you don't but you don't get it. It's different than passing time and being someone that passes time alone but likes it. It's different. It's loneliness is a different description than someone that likes to pass time alone. And people that suffer with loneliness, obviously, they tell it's something for especially bad for their mental health. And then so what are like ways to fight this? We have the third place 2.0 free community hubs with vulnerability gyms, Barcelona model, and digital number compliance apps block social media if so 105 deep ERL relationships. The Japan's Mahai circles cut senior suicide 22%. So with that, I expect that you've liked the video. I expect you have understood the statement of value that this channel can provide to you. And with that, I expect to see you in a next one. So thank you and see you in the next one.